Belarus said that the weapons would offer protection against what it called a campaign of pressure from the U.S. and its allies aimed at overthrowing Lukashenko, who has been in power for nearly 3 decades. In an hours-long televised address to the nation, President Alexander Lukashenko said Belarus was prepared to defend its sovereignty through any means necessary, including nuclear. They are preparing to invade Belarus, to destroy our country. They are training our escapees as militias, bandits, plainly speaking, who are disposable. They are now receiving some initial experience in Ukraine, but more as cannon fodder. Given the circumstances, the current military and political situation around our country, I have explicitly stepped up my talk with President Putin on the return of nuclear weapons to Belarus. I want to safeguard the state of Belarus and ensure peace for the Belarusian people. My people have deserved that through all its history and existence. We do not want to live under the whip anymore, and we will not be slaves. Furthermore, Lukashenko said he does not fear the possibility of fresh Western sanctions against his country over the deployment of Russian tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus. They say if you station nuclear weapons in Belarus, we will impose sanctions against you. Are you crazy? Have you forgotten that you already imposed them yesterday? What should we be afraid of today? Today, we must simply preserve sovereignty and independence. That is why I based my address today on this. And we will preserve our sovereignty and independence and ensure it by all means possible, including our nuclear arsenal. Yesterday, March 31st, was the last day of the month when Mozambique chaired the United Nations Security Council. From April 1st, the presidency passes to Russia. When Russia held the presidency in the council last time, the Kremlin launched a full-scale war against Ukraine. The deputy U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Robert Wood, accused Putin of escalating Russia's dangerous and destabilizing behavior with his threat to deploy nuclear weapons in Belarus.
But President Putin is escalating Russia's dangerous and destabilizing behavior by now threatening to deploy nuclear weapons in Belarus. He has once again reminded the world of his disregard for international law, including the UN Charter. Russia's suggestion that this intended deployment is somehow justified because of the use of armor-piercing ammunition is ludicrous. We call on Russia to reconsider its intentions to forward deploy nuclear weapons to Belarus, and once again, call on Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine.
China, Moscow's strategic partner, did not specifically address Putin's plans. We call for the abolition of the nuclear sharing arrangement. We advocate that all nuclear-armed states should refrain from deploying nuclear weapons outside their borders and withdraw those deployed outside their borders. Russia's UN ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, told the council that Putin took the decision to ensure the security of the Russian Federation and Belarus. To ensure the security of the Russian Federation and Belarus, this is exactly the direction of the measures announced by the president, which have so frightened the Zelensky regime and its Western sponsors. Or did you seriously expect that we would not properly respond to your provocative and aggressive actions? Belarus is consistent and absolutely transparent to its neighbors and to the entire international community in taking forced retaliatory actions to develop its own defense capabilities. These actions are purely reactive in nature and are aimed at strengthening our own security and defense capabilities. We have said repeatedly, and we repeat, don't interfere in our internal affairs. Deal with your own countries and your real human rights issues.
The Belarusian regime is an accomplice in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. The deletion of Belarus's declared stance as a non-nuclear territory from the revised constitution adopted last year was a worrying development. The announcement of last week that Russia intends to deploy nuclear weapons on Belarusian territory would be yet another dangerous step. Threats with and use of nuclear weapons are inadmissible. Russia's decision will not weaken our resolve to support Ukraine.
Repeated threats to use of nuclear weapons are utterly irresponsible and unacceptable, even if they boil down to a political bluff of blackmailing.
Russia's decision to station tactical nuclear missiles in Belarus amid rising tension with the West over its invasion of Ukraine is its first deployment of nuclear weapons outside its borders since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991.